welcome to the Copihue Quilt Along week 2. I've got all my stuff set up here. I've got my fancy new little Aliso iron, and we're going to dive right in. We are today going to be making the half circle units and the orange peel units, and those are going to become the flowers and the flower petals. I've got a finished-ish, I have to quilt it still, but it's all pieced together. So this is one I've just sort of been working on my own. So what we're sewing together today is this part here with the background, and then the leaves down here. So that's what your finished piece is going to eventually look like. So you should have everything except for that sashing cut out. And what takes the longest this part is actually just preparing everything. So we're going to take all of our template, I think these are template C. Let me just make sure so I tell you right. Yes, also all of our template C pieces, our template B pieces, which is the flower petal, and then our template A pieces. I'm only going to do a couple of them right now, because you don't need to sit and watch me sew all of them. So I'll just move this down here. I like using Wonder Clips when I'm doing this because they don't poke. So what you're going to do, we'll start with the half circle units and we'll sew those, and then we'll do the orange peel units, is you're going to take one of your half circle units, you're going to fold it in half and just finger press it. You don't need to press it with the iron. And you're going to do the same with your template C. And then you're going to match up that fold line, right sides together. And if you're using a solid, it doesn't really matter. And you can match up, you can pin the other sides as well. I generally don't, just because I feel I don't need to, but you can do that if you'd like. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew that curve. And you're going to have to ease this template C around this curve. It's funny, actually, I was teaching a different curved quilting class last night. It's the same sort of thing. Make sure you have a small stitch length. That's going to make your quilt not fall apart, and it's going to be easier to go around that curve as well. And just go slowly if this is your first time. And you'll find amazingly that once you get going, it doesn't quite have to be perfect. We do have to trim the blocks down, and that's something that's built into this pattern. So it's not going to finish at a 5-inch block once you're done sewing. We want to make it a 5-inch block. If you find that there are like this, if you steam it with your iron, any like little ripples are going to end up, little puckers are going to end up coming out. And if you're really not happy, take out the seam ripper. There's nothing wrong with needing to do that and starting all over again. So I'm going to prep these other 3 pieces. And what's nice about sewing all at the same time is that you can chain piece them together. So instead of having to stop and start with each piece, you just keep going. So I'll show you how to do that sort of in a mini way with these. So I'm just going to do the one here, and then this one. And this is why the Wonder Clips are nice, because if you're using pins, you're going to end up, poking yourself. Let me make sure that I've got the chat function. All messages are visible. Perfect. Okay. And if anybody's out there and wants to say hi, you know what to do. Okay. So coming over to the machine now, I've got my 1/4-inch foot. My stitch length is set to 1.8. Your machine may be different. I'll start with this one since the clip is in place. And I'll try to sew slow as well. And anytime that you need to adjust, put your needle in the down position. That helps to keep the fabric from shifting around. And I do find you do have to adjust and sort of hold this into place. You're going to end up with some, like you can see the fabric here is sort of like bubbly. It's going to happen as long as it's not within your 1/4 inch seam allowance, then you're fine. Clip out. Wonder clips for the win, man. Always love those wonder clips. If you're a garment sewer who's new to sewing quilts, this is exactly like easing a sleeve into the sleeve cap on a set-in sleeve. It's the exact same sewing motion and sewing technique. Here we go. So same thing. So chain piecing, I've stopped just before I've gotten to the edge of this, and then I'm going to start feeding the new piece in. And you just keep going. And because with quilting, you don't have to backstitch, this is really quite, you know, simple and easy to do. Just pull that over slightly. You're making the curves look very, I didn't see what that said. Go back up for me. Live chat, all messages of it. You're making the curves look easy. They're not, honestly, they're little, the only thing I find tricky with them is the fact that they're small. It's a 5-inch block. It's quite small. I was teaching the Rainbow Falls quilt last night by Wren Collective. And if you're new to curves, that one is really nice because the curves are quite large. They're 10.5-inch blocks. And so the small curve is a little tricky, but the other ones are quite easy to do. But this one's not too bad. There we go. And like I said, you know, it's between what your iron is going to steam out, what is going to become invisible when you actually start quilting it, and what will, you know, just wrinkle up nicely in the wash. Any sort of minor imperfections are not going to be noticeable. And I think, you know, anyone who maybe, I don't know, if you're watching this, you're probably not going to be showing this quilt somewhere. It's probably going on your couch or as a baby gift for someone. The minor imperfections are going to be so not even noticed. So you can see here, you've got your block. We're going to press our seam. Oh, I've got to turn my little iron on. Look at my little iron. It's so cute. It's so cute. It's so tiny. I love it. I got it from the store. It's the Aliso Mini, and seriously, if you're doing like little quilting, this is the thing to have. So I'm going to turn it on. We're going to push our seam allowance down towards the curve. Press it. I just had it on a second ago, so it should be kind of hot. Give it a nice steam there. Okay, and we're going to do the same with all of our pieces. Oh my God, yes. I love that. I haven't really, I bought this iron because I've been doing all of these sew-alongs, and to use the little iron while I'm sitting here is, to use my big iron was like really difficult. And this is amazing. I'm so happy I bought this. It's tiny and it's fun. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you how to square these up right now. So I've got a 6.5-inch square ruler. The closer you can get in size to your block, the easier it's going to be to manipulate it. and closer in size. I know it irons flat. Like you wouldn't think it, but it irons flat. So the closer you can get in size, like at the size or just above, the easier it's going to be to use your ruler. So these are 5.5-inch blocks. This is a 6.5-inch ruler. It's pretty good. If you're looking at like sizes to get for rulers, I want to press that a little bit more. Having a 12.5-inch, a 6.5-inch, and I think of 7.5 or an 8.5-inch. Those are like a good, you know, introductory size to have for quilting. Okay. I'm just going to let that one dry. We're going to switch to the yellow one. So what you need to do is you need to leave at this point here and at this point here a 1/4 inch. And why we're doing that is, oh, I've done this wrong. It's like this. No. This way. There we go. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and that will be 5 if we move it over ever so slightly. Okay. Because that's where your seam is going to be when you join them, and that 1/4 inch is your seam allowance. And this motion is called, I'm going to do it awkwardly here. I usually do this standing up. It's easier to do it standing up. I don't recommend doing it sitting down if you can stand up. Okay. And then just going to make sure here. That this is 5 inches. So I'm lining up. Oh, there we go. I'm lining up the edges that I've just cut on that 5-inch line, and I'm trimming all the way around so that it's a perfect 5-inch square. And you can see that's what it's going to look like at the end. So we'll do that one more time here. And we're going to have to do, oh no, I've got like fluffies everywhere. I'm going to have to vacuum it. We're going to have to do the same thing with the orange peel blocks as well. So that's it, and that's it. And ooh, I cut that one a little bit too short. That's okay. There we go. See? Perfecto. So that's doing, and now you have to do that with all of these half circle units. I can't remember. I think we cut 36 of them, something like that. So that's that. I'll have to do this one afterwards. So then we're going to do something similar with the orange peel units. And I've tried a couple of different methods with this one, and I think following what they say in the instructions seems to work out best. And that's sewing and then trimming each block instead of sewing both sides and then trimming at the end. So we're going to do the same finger press method. And I've got 3 here with me. I think I have significantly more template C pieces than I need. That's okay. And what's going to take time is, you know, prepping all of your pieces to sew. So I recommend, you know, doing that in advance. Before you sit down and sew. Oh, that one's got a little bit of, I'm just going to leave that. I cut it and there's a little bit of selvage on it. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to chain piece all of these pieces together from this one side. And put my needle in the down position as I adjust. And this is the same thing. You're going around a curve. It's the exact same kind of curve as your last piece. The half circle units. And we'll do this one. And just fiddle this into place. The only part I find really tricky is getting that edge to line up, and it's like you've really got to move it into place. The initial one's not bad. It's square, but it's that tail end that ends up a little bit. And if your seam allowance isn't a perfect 1/4 inch, again, it'll just, you know, come out in the wash. Okay, so we got those 3 pieces. So, and they're all pieced together. Going to come back over here to our iron. And what we're going to do this time, so same thing, we're going to iron the seam allowance down towards the orange peel part, towards the flower or the petal unit. So there's one. Here's the second one. And you may notice I switched out. I had those pink ones, and they were just way too bright for what I was doing, what I thought that this worked with. So I ended up going and getting a different fat 1/4 and cutting new pieces. And I think this, like, there's leopard spots, but like a rainbow of them. So we're going to square these up again, but only on these 2 sides. And again, so that there's, what we need to measure is that 1/4 inch on both sides. And I found this is tricky because it seems that the piece really wants to be it doesn't want to finish nice and square. I've done a couple other ones. This one, in order for me to get it to be actually 5 inches, this is not a 1/4 inch here. So I'm going to have to play around with that when I sew it and just sort of figure out from there how to really make it work. So there's that. And then we're going to do the same thing now for the other side. So we're going to fold these in half so we can get our crease there, and take your C template. And at this point, you'll see that this edge is going to overlap. Let's see if I can do it like this. So this edge is going to overlap the end like that. Oh my goodness, everything's sticking together. That's okay. I'm really glad, and this will be like the date stamp on, aside from the actual date stamp on this video, that we didn't end up with, serious tornado damage today. I don't think Ottawa could handle it emotionally. Here we go. So there's those 3 pieces. I maybe do just have enough. I'll bring you back over to my machine. And again, we're going to set this up so that it's square to this. And put my needle in that down position so I can adjust along here. And so here, this one has bubbled, and I'm probably going to have to redo it. I'm going to finish sewing it just so I can keep chain piecing, but I suspect that it looks like the edge of the C template got caught in the seam allowance. I'll show you afterwards so you can see the error of my ways. Maybe not. We'll see if it comes out with steam. And if it doesn't, then we'll seam rip it. And then next week, we're going to put all the flowery blocks together. And then we put the quilt together, and then it's done. It's super simple. Okay. So bring you back over here. I'm just going to this was not the one. So again, we're going to press it towards that orange peel piece. And sometimes if you're too aggressive with steam, you will end up distorting your piece, and you don't want that. So be aware that you can be too aggressive. No, it wasn't. So was that one. I guess it's a good sign if I can't tell which one I messed up on. Yeah, right here. So you can see where it's a little bubbly. It looks like I sewed some of this into it. I'm going to give it a press. We're going to see if it flattens out, and if not, we'll see how bad it is. And if it's bad enough that I feel, oh yeah, it's definitely bad enough that I feel. So I'm just going to put this one off to the side for now. I have a couple other blocks I still have to sew, and so I'll just redo that one at that time. So we've done this side, and now we need to make this 5 inches square. And you can see here, like the 1/4 inch is at this point. It just does not want to be. So I'm just going to shift it over ever so slightly. So it's not quite a 1/4 inch. And why that's important is because if I did that at a 1/4 inch, then this block is going to end up finishing at larger than 5 inches, and it's not going to line up. You can see on the finished sample I did, let me pull it out. I was able to sort of salvage it here, but you can see those blocks sort of don't quite touch. And same thing here, like you can see at the top here, it ends up getting sort of cut off at that point. So that's why you need that 1/4 inch. And you can kind of fake it. You can kind of fake it when you're, yeah, I want to move that over like that. You can kind of fake, and when you're sewing, you can sew with, you know, just under a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and that will fix it. So I think it's just the shape of this block that does not want to be. That's still nicely a 1/4 inch, and that's still nicely a 1/4 inch. So we're good. So there's my finished block. And I think that's going to work much nicer with that piece. So I'll do it again for this one. I've already trimmed. Sorry, I've already trimmed here. So, and I'm not quite on my cutting mat. No. And I have to thank my eldest for lending me. This is their cutting mat. I was like, I need it for the video tonight. Let me borrow it, because mine are ginormous and stapled down to the top of my table. Yeah, see, that did not work well. Okay, so I'm gonna give this another. Sometimes, folks, your blocks just don't line up, and you may have to redo them. Yep. Okay, so we're going to do that. And this one just does not want to be 5 inches square. So slice fix that. So I'm actually not going to redo this just because I'm going to show you how to, you know, fix a block that's not quite 5 inches square when we come to sewing. But that's the gist of the sewing tonight. So get all of those. Let me do this. Sorry. So I can see your face. Well, I can't see your face, but you can see my face. Get all of, if the silly camera will stop. It's so heavy and it wants to just bow down. Get all of your half circle blocks and your orange peel blocks sewn, and we'll come back next week and we'll put them together into bellflower shapes. That's it. Have a great evening, everybody.